this is Joe on relationships. I did one podcast for 2 minutes, and I was going to discuss, but it accidentally stopped, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this on blame in relationships. When you point the finger at the other person in the relationship, it doesn't go very well. Somebody's going to get upset. Somebody's going to explode like, I did this past weekend. But eating this good chicken noodle soup, a cup of noodles by Nissan. So, this is very good. It nourishes my stomach and stuff like that. Very good too. But, let me discuss this. Blame in relationships, when you point the finger at the other person and say, hey, it's all your fault. The reaction is not going to go over well. You point when they're in the middle of something, they could explode, and like happened to me. I exploded, and, I'm going to live with the consequences, but, sometimes pointing blame at another person could be a trigger. Something that I could discuss in another podcast, Improving Your Mental Health, which will eventually come, but we're just going to focus on the relationship aspect. When you're in a team or something like that, you need to delegate stuff. Delegate tasks. You say, hey, this is your areas. I need you to clean this up. Dad has certain areas he gotta clean. My mom has certain areas she gotta clean. If we could get help, we try to pitch in together and do it. It's like the job doesn't fall on one person, and everybody has orders. So, we've been busting our asses and cleaning. So, but when you're running yourself into the ground, it's not the best of things to do. And you get all exhausted, your body needs a break, and stuff like that. It's kind of like preparing for a visit. It's like, they all have visits, they all gotta say, hey, not the safe thing to do, you can't have this here, you can't have that there. I remember before in the past, it wasn't like that, now it's like, everybody wants money, and I don't know. But we're focusing on tasks. Tasks are that everybody has a task to do in the family. Everybody got to do a task in a relationship. It's like, there's relationship responsibilities. It's like, you don't want the whole weight to fall on one person. You need help. It's like if you have elderly parents, or, you need to have help. It's like, and it falls on you, you gotta take care of your own space, and if your space is big, well, you're up Shit's Creek. But, no pun intended on the show, Shit's Creek. But, who won about 9, 10. Let's just say they won the Emmys last year. I don't know. But, I'm just saying. Relationships, blaming, you can't necessarily point the blame on one another. Like, you point the blame, you get upset, it gets everybody riled up, and blame is not the best thing to do. It's like the New York Yankees. The whole blame can't fall on Gary Sanchez. Like, it's a team effort. And the whole blame can't just fall on Aaron Boone. Like, Aaron Boone's the manager, but, when the pitching coach isn't getting the players ready, when the batting coach isn't getting the players ready the best that they can, and they're not improving themselves, when the GM isn't doing what he needs to do to get the manager prepared, it's just a team effort, When they lose, they're going to feel bad. That's just the nature. When I lost, I felt bad. I put a lot of blame on myself. But you need to look at yourself as an organization and see how, even a team, even a relationship, you gotta look at and take responsibilities for actions, and you gotta say, hey, how am I going to improve this? Like, if you're going on the way that you're going on, well, it's not gonna be good. It's just how it is. I mean, you try to do whatever you need to do, and you have people who are like, hey, I need you to do this. It's like, bosses, this is what I say. The job of the boss is not to be tough and not to be reprimanding and everything else. You're not supposed to come down on one person and point blame at that person. Like, I have a situation, and this is what happened in one of my places of work in Woodbridge, former place that I worked with. Not mentioning the names, but in one of the retail stores, I'll just put it that way. But you could say, it happened. JCP. This is when I used to work there. The store manager and the other managers had an order. It was a delivery of maybe over like 250 packages. I mean, it was a lot. And it was a FedEx delivery. So what happened was, store manager and I had to check it in. And, I don't usually, know the protocol of what happens if there's a delivery. Like, I didn't know that you're supposed to count every package and stuff like that. And, when you have, like, over, like, 200 and something like that, it gets overwhelming. So you have the manager, the managers, and I was telling one of the managers that we had a delivery, and I can't think whatever. They left me on the own with the delivery. So what happened was the manager, their managers, supervisors all targeted me for that mismanagement of that order. Why wasn't it counted? They kept on asking me. Heck, I didn't know that you needed it to be counted. Like, had they told me ahead of time, I would have understood. But, 200 for some packages, how are you going to keep track for every single one package? I don't know, but apparently, they wanted to keep track of it. You don't do these things. But, like, the store manager got upset, lost his cool in the situation. Yes, I can say whatever, but it's, I can understand money is being lost and whatever, but if you're the store manager, and if you're whatever, and, the fact is, that I don't, like, like, I wouldn't, it's like, I was out of practice. I hadn't done that in a while. I wasn't prepared for an order like that. They try to say, don't worry about it. But I'm just saying, it's like, when you look at something like that in an organization, you got to see how that happened, how they all banded together and then they pointed blame at one individual when they couldn't put blame on themselves with the whole, they couldn't accept responsibility. The fact is, that happened. They didn't teach me. You gotta understand what had happened. And they were releasing people, even the supervisor of the dock, which, is something that they really need, but they said, hey, we don't need a supervisor for the dock. I don't know why, and and it doesn't make sense, but, that's what they did, and, there was no chain of command, and, the chain of command was the manager who, felt like they could take, whatever, but, they were very bossy, and, like, you didn't feel comfortable. I mean, the whole idea of a manager is that you're supposed to feel comfortable with them or her. You have to have a rapport. You have to have, they're supposed to teach you these things that you don't know. Back then, I was very timid. I was very scared and feel comfortable talking to a manager where I would be getting blown up on. It's like, I start the company and, I hear stories and, it puts fear in you and, it's like, you're like, okay, what if I, do whatever. But, hold on one second. Okay, no, this is Joe on relationships. We have Sierra Bliss on the podcast because she wants to talk, and we're inviting her on. We're talking about responsibilities
Hi.
in relationships and blame. So, what's going on?
Nothing. It's a beautiful day out.
It's a beautiful day out. Now we know, and
Yeah,
we know
nice and sunny and breezy.
we were talking about work responsibilities, and how with blaming the individual, like everyone comes down on in an organization on an individual, like what happened to me at work. I want to hear your take on blame and responsibility, and how things, you know, something falls in the crack. I want to hear your take.
Well, sometimes coworkers cannot be easy to deal with. I mean, honestly, I should say I really never had too much of a problem, but sometimes like coworkers don't match the same personality as the person that they're working with, or sometimes they can be jealous of the progress that an employee may make and feel resentful and angry that
I
they're not getting that praise.
I have a question though. What happens when you make a mistake, you didn't know about that mistake, and it seems like all fingers are being pointed your direction?
Well, I think sometimes people don't want to take that on themselves. They always have to look good in the public eye. So sometimes it's easier to put it off on somebody else, make them look bad, because it takes the focus off themselves and things like that.
Yeah, because like I don't know. It's like, you know, let's just say, it's like, let's just say for example, when you have, this visit. It doesn't matter where it's from, for a house, for retail. It seems like there's a visit, and whenever there's a visit, the managers go crazy, and then they say, you need to do this, you need to do that. Something that should have been done, like, I don't know, it should have been done
They may
throughout.
not enforce the rules all the time like they should be done, and when it's time get everything together to show the bigwigs, then they pull it all together last minute, try to make everything look good.
Yeah, exactly. That I had to do that, many, many times at work. Like, I remember, like, there was visits, and me and my supervisor were running around like crazy to, only two people, mind you, to clean everything, make everything neat, and whatever thing else. But they had organization problems. They had too many carts. They had a lot of clothes. So what were we gonna do? So yeah, that's what happened. But on that note, I am going to wrap up this podcast.
Okay.
Sierra Bliss, thank you for being on the podcast.
No problem. Anytime.
Enjoyed your take, and I'll be ready in 2 minutes. Okay, this has been Joe on Relationships with special guest Sierra Bliss. Excuse me. Have a good night, or day, or whatever.